Привет, драгоценность! Сегодня я расскажу тебе, почему так легко достичь любое желание.
Right now, I'm going to get personal. I'm going to share with you the experience I went through at the age of 14 that changed my life and got me interested in personal growth. And I'm going to share with you some of the key lessons I learned throughout this process. Everyone ready? Okay, so this is my story. So that's me. That's me in the 80s. I'm the guy on the left. The other one is my cousin Bart. I wore bell-bottom pants, and I liked wearing shiny black shoes. Now, I had a decent childhood, right? But when I was 9 years old, something happened to my eyesight. And by the time I was around 14 or 15, I was pretty much legally blind. Basically, it was just extreme short-sightedness. What happened was I went to a really crappy school in Malaysia. And my eyesight got so bad, it reached a stage where I had to sit, if this was the blackboard, I had to sit directly in front of the blackboard just to read. The teachers there didn't really give a damn about the students. This was a school that was just a government-run school, a complete mess. So my parents didn't find out that I had eyesight problems. It wasn't, by the time it was diagnosed, it was too late. I was wearing gigantic, thick glasses. So in my teenage years, I wore these giant glasses that like went all the way down to my mouth. You know 80s glasses? The really big kinds? You could clean them by licking them with your tongue because they were that massive. And so I was this really awkward kid with giant glasses, not very well-built, kind of skinny. I also had really bad skin. If you look up the word nerd in the dictionary, like my picture was pretty much there. So these glasses really bugged me. And I always wanted a way to find a way to overcome my bad eyesight. Now, to compensate for being a nerd, what I would do is I would engage in tons of I really trained my body. So I got into martial arts, I got into exercise, and soon, while I was scoring, I was the top student in my high school. I was also the top athlete in my high school, but I still had really low self-esteem despite all of that because of how I looked. I had a really bad acne problem, horrible glasses, and every time I played sports, I would break my glasses. So my glasses actually had tape all around it. So I was in my dad's bookshelf once, just looking at books, and I stumbled upon a particular book called The Silver Mind Control Method. It was a book written in 1977, I believe. It has since sold some 12 million copies. Flipping through this book, I came across the story of a nun. Her name was Sister Barbara Burns. And that story was about how, through the Silver Method, she was able to go from being legally blind to being able to see clearly in a span of 1 year. And basically what Barbara Burns did was, the Silver Method teaches you to go to what is called the alpha level of mind. It's a level of meditation, but they do it in a very structured way so you actually know that your brain waves have gone down. This can be measured by a machine called an EEG machine. You know your brain waves have gone down, that you're deeply relaxed, and then they give you specific creative visualization models, positive statements to use to change yourself, to change your inner identity. What Barbara Burns did was she would tell herself, every time I blink my eyes, my vision gets better, better, and better. Just that statement. After a span of 1 year, her eyesight went back to normal. She was able to discard her glasses. So I decided to try that. Can you guess what happened? Absolutely nothing. After 2 years, literally, I was that desperate to get rid of these horrible glasses. Remember, back in the 80s, contact lenses were different. They were hard, they could scratch your eyes. Contact lenses were not an option. I really wanted to play sports. Glasses was a big barrier. After 2 years of doing this, absolutely nothing happened. And I couldn't understand why. Now, the Silver Method at that point was helping me relax, but I wasn't getting any damn results out of it. And this is where my first lesson in personal growth came. I reread that Silva book, and I came across a certain paragraph where the author, Jose Silva, used these words, "Don't jump the gun." He said that all of us have a reservoir of faith within our body, and this determines what we believe ourselves to be capable of. Essentially what that means is, don't try to cure cancer before you can cure your dandruff. You guys get what I'm talking about? Now, what I was trying to do was to cure an ailment that had plagued me for years and years and years, since early childhood. The belief system was so deep-rooted that I couldn't shake it, even with the help of Silva. You see, in my inner identity, I didn't believe I was worthy. There were lots of other issues with me. I grew up in a religious household. Growing up as a Hindu, I believed in this thing called karma, that if bad things happen to you, it's because of your past lives. I actually believed in that bullshit. This is nothing against Hinduism, but there are certain segments of it that cause a lot of guilt, much like Christianity and Islam. And all of this garbage held me back, much as it holds back billions of people on the face of the planet today. So it was later on, as I matured, that I realized that I wasn't really doing Silva right, because in my mind, while I was repeating those positive statements, I wasn't doing anything to change my inner identity that I did not deserve better eyesight, that I was ugly, that I had low self-esteem. Now, what I decided to do was try a smaller test. Remember, don't try to cure dandruff before you can try to cure cancer. I read in that same book about how the human skin is the organ that is most susceptible to hypnosis and suggestion. I read about how Jose Silva, in his live demonstrations, would call a member of the audience on stage, take a marker, hypnotize that person to believe that the marker is a red-hot poker, put that marker on their skin, and a bubble would form, an actual burn bubble, from an ordinary room-temperature plastic marker. Jose Silva would then take his hand, put his hand over that bubble, command that person that their skin is going to be healed, and when he removed that hand, that skin would be healed. The human skin is completely susceptible to hypnotic suggestion. In fact, some hypnotists are able to get someone to tan on command just by putting them under hypnosis. It actually happens. So I decided to try if I could cure my second biggest problem, which was my seriously bad skin. It caused me to have huge self-esteem issues, and that self-esteem issues affected me in many other areas of my life. So for 4 weeks, using the Silva method, 3 times a day, or just 5 to 10 minutes a day, I would visualize a particular sequence, a particular healing process, a particular kind of energetic sequence that healed my skin. Something really amazing happened. I had bad skin for around 7 years. After 4 weeks, that skin cleared up. And that's where I learned my first lesson. Don't jump the gun. Start with something small before you try to heal greater illnesses or manifest something bigger. But now, with this minor success, I decided to try my next success. All those guys who called me a geek, well, I decided I was going to be a martial artist and represent my country in an international martial arts tournament. I decided I was going to represent my country in the US Open Taekwondo Championships at the Colorado Springs Olympic Training Center. This was 1993. So it was a big goal for a tiny little geeky guy with bad skin and giant glasses. But I visualized this nonstop, myself in Colorado representing Malaysia. Something funny happened. So the trials came up. These were the heats. So the people trying to qualify for so basically you go for the heats, you win, you go for the competition, you do well, you might get on the team. Okay, so I go for the heats. Basically, there are 3 guys around you holding 2-inch pieces of wood. And with 3 different kicks, you have to break each piece of wood with 3 different kicks. Can you guess what happened? I did not break a single piece of wood. It was really bizarre. I'd been visualizing the end goal for a long time. I totally flunked out of the heats. But I went to watch the competition anyway to observe my friend Daniel, who did get through. Now, Daniel had taken part in the sparring round, which is where basically you're fighting with another participant. And in that round, something happened to his foot, right? So he decided, Vishn, I'm probably going to get into the US Open anyway. Don't want to hurt my foot any further. Here, can you take my costume and go and take part in the wood breaking competition? And he said, I know you didn't even qualify. It's totally cool if nothing breaks. Just represent the team. So I said, okay, I put on Daniel's costume. I wasn't even qualified to be there, but somehow through that weird coincidence, I was there. But something strange happened. At that competition, which was the finals, I wasn't meant to be there. I was replacing someone else. They even thought my name was Daniel. But every single piece of wood broke. And I did that in the fastest time possible. A week later, the instructor came up to me and said, Vishn, I'd like you on that team. And so, even though the path that got me to the US Open was not the path I thought it should take, in other words, I didn't make it to the heats, but I found myself there, I did actually manifest that goal. I was at the US Open Taekwondo Championships, a kid from Malaysia. That was the first time I'd ever set foot in the United States. That made me fall in love with the US, and that's why I later moved there. But exactly what I visualized happened. Key lesson here, when you're visualizing something, don't demand that it comes to you in a certain way, because the universe has its own plans. And so I got the end result. It just didn't come through the conventional way. It came through a bizarre coincidence where I was replacing someone else in that competition floor. Third lesson, I learned that when you visualize something, you're going to get exactly what you visualize, nothing more, nothing less. So I was at the competition, and I get into the ring, have my giant sports glasses on, and the coach goes, so there are literally hundreds of people watching us. This is the Olympic Training Center. And the coach says, hey, you, come out of here. Step out of the ring, and I go, what's the matter? And the judge says, in US rules, you cannot fight with glasses. And I'm like, wait, but these are sports glasses. They're unbreakable. He says, no, here everyone sues everyone else. You cannot fight with glasses. So I had to take off my glasses. So now I'm in a ring facing Glenn Rayback, the Dutch national champion, and I'm completely blind. So Glenn was in front of me. At least I think he was in front of me. He could have been behind me, to the side. Couldn't see shit. And within 15 seconds, I get a kick to the head, I'm on the ground. I get up, I'm trying to find Glenn, I get another kick to the head, I'm on the ground. I was the fastest knockout in that competition. I was knocked out in 30 seconds. Okay, guys, here's a clue. When I talk about having my face kicked, don't applause. Okay, so I spent the rest of the competition in a bed in a hospital. Next to me was Paris Armani, the US Olympian, so I had a great talk. It was an overall great experience. But I realized, damn it, I should have visualized myself at least surviving a minute in the ring. But see, you get exactly what you wanted. But this, now I'd manifested two great things with Silva. I started manifesting other things. I decided I wanted to be an actor. I started manifesting opportunities where by the time I was 19, I'd worked with two of Malaysia's top English language play directors, and I was on stage. I decided I was going to be the student council president of my college. I manifested that. I decided I was going to start 15 different clubs and societies in my college. I manifested that. And I started doing all these crazy things as a 18 and 19-year-old. Decided I wanted to study in the US, I manifested that. Got into a great university, Michigan. And the thing about life is when things are going well sometimes, you forget your embodiment practices. You forget about meditation, affirmations. And so things were going so well, I kind of forgot about it. And my first few years in the US were kind of rocky. I was never into that flow as much as I was when I was a late teenager. When I graduated, moved to Silicon Valley, lost my first business. The only job I could get was a commission-only sales rep on the phone, selling technology to law firms, using the name Vishen Lakьяни, because no guy in Texas could pronounce Vishen. Vishen Lakьяni? So I was Googling to see if there were any Silva classes in the US. I found a Silva class in Los Angeles. I flew and attended that class. And I mean, you can learn only so much from a book. From a class, you get a whole different area of learning. This is what happened to me. Now, the thing about Silva is they teach you to function like a psychic. A lot of people don't know this, but in a Silva class, you learn to function as a psychic, and they do it in a really powerful way. At the end of that class, you are facing someone unknown to you. They give you the name, age, location, and gender of a person who they know, but you don't know. You go to your alpha level of mind, and you start talking about that person. So in my case, I was given the name of a particular lady. And I went to my alpha level of mind. I tried to see what I could, in my mind's eye, see what were the situation with her. It feels as if you're guessing. I saw, for example, that her blood was blue. So I said, well, looks like she has blue blood. Then when I tried to look deeply into her head, I saw that there was a sad, lonely man with elephants rotating around him. So I verbalized all of this to the guide. When I opened my eyes, that guide's mouth was like hanging open. He's like, how could you know that? And I asked him, what's the big deal? I talked about blue blood. No one has blue blood. Turns out this lady was a smoker. And because of high degrees of smoking, she actually did suffer from a blood disorder where her blood couldn't absorb enough oxygen, so it had a slightly purplish hue. And the layman's term for that disease is blue blood. And the lonely man in her head, turned out her husband had been stationed in India for 3 months, and they were really missing each other. And so see, the elephants dancing around him was my subconscious mind's symbolic way of mentioning India. So this was a big hit, and I was able to get these really eerie, intuitive hits over and over and over again. Now, I know some of you are going, what the fuck, I don't believe in that shit. That's cool. I didn't believe in that shit either. But that's what I experienced. Now, got on a plane, flew back from LA to San Francisco, went back to my job, used the Silva method, set a goal to double my sales target. Within 1 week, I achieved that goal. Interesting about sales is this. You have your ups and your downs. My sales doubled, and it stayed at that level. So I said, I'm going to double it again. Doubled, it stayed at that level. Said, I'm going to double it yet again. Doubled, it stayed at that level. Then my boss, his name was Dimitri, and he was trying to do, this was in the early days of Google. Google had just launched their AdWords program. He wanted to buy a large amount of inventory on Google, $500,000 worth of advertising on AdWords to target lawyers who might want to buy our technology. He was on the phone with Google. He could not find a way to get Google to drop the price to something reasonable. I said, Dimitri, can I try? He's like, sure, go ahead. I used a Silva technique that teaches you to communicate with people at a very, it's weird, again, really weird, but it teaches you to communicate with people at a subliminal level so you can reach a positive outcome together. I did that to the sales rep before I got on the phone with her. On that phone, I got them to drop the price to 100 grand. Dimitri was like, how the hell did you do it? You're only a kid. And he said, if you can do that, can you drop it further? I said, sure. I later got them to drop it to 60,000. Second time, using the same technique. I told him, Dimitri asked me, how did you do it? What was your negotiation strategy? I said, it's called ESP. And he didn't talk to me after that for several weeks. But I did get promoted. And in the span of 4 months, I got promoted 3 times. So I was at the company for barely 9 months, this kid from Malaysia with a funny accent who had 0 sales experience. And at the end of 9 months, I was running the New York office. Beautiful, stunning office in Chelsea Market. And that's what Silva did for me. Now, the other thing about life is that sometimes you're going through a part which is not the best part for you, and the universe will come and kick your ass to get you back on the right path. And that's what happened. I wasn't meant to be being director of a sales company. I was meant to be doing this, the kind of stuff like Awesomeness Fest. So one day I had this intuitive hunch that I should move back to Malaysia. And it seemed like a really weird hunch because I loved New York. All my friends were in New York. Why would I want to move back from the country I wanted to escape from? But I followed that hunch. And because of that hunch, the company Mind Valley was formed. And everything that you experience right now through Awesomeness Fest was a result of that hunch. So the thing I've learned is that the fastest way to progress in life is through personal growth, through trusting your intuition, creative visualization, and sort of working with the energy of human consciousness. That's what I learned from the Silva method. To me, it was the single biggest personal growth influence in my life. And that's why I wanted to share it with you today. So, I'd like you to give a big round of applause to Laura Silva. She's the daughter of Jose Silva. Jose, Laura, come right up. And
yay, thank you. Thank you, Vishon.
Thanks. And Ken Kosha. Ken is the chief instructor for the Silva method.